Deputy Presiding Officer, people across the country are preparing for Christmas. It is a special time, but for many it comes at the end of a year filled with anxiety about their family finances. Over the past year, we have seen a 30% increase in the number of families at risk of losing the homes they own and being made homeless. Now, that is a direct result of a mortgage crisis caused by Tory economic chaos. But the Scottish Government has a mortgage support scheme, but it seems in name only, because in reality it has not supported anyone since 2015. And the Scottish Government has committed to a review by the end of the financial year, but that's in April, when people are losing their homes right now. So why won't the Government stop the delay and support families before they lose their homes?
Deputy First Minister.
Well, can I first of all echo Anas Sarwar's comments about the sad and sudden news of Hanzala Malik's death. He was a true champion of his Glasgow community, and our thoughts are with his family and his many friends. Can I also agree with Anas Sarwar that many families are experiencing real pressure, not just at Christmas but have throughout the year, as the Tory-caused cost of living crisis continues to bite and affect their household finances. And of course it was due to the economic catastrophe of Liz Truss's mini-budget that has caused many of those mortgages to be sky high due to increased interest rates. In terms of our support, over the last year, of course, we spent around £3 billion of Scottish Government resources in supporting household budgets, the main one being, of course, our investment in Scottish Child Payment. And, of course, we will continue through our welfare funds and other measures, discretionary housing payments, to try to support household budgets going forward. In terms of those supports for people with mortgages specifically, we will continue to look at what more we can do, and I'm happy to update Anas Sarwar in due course about that.
Anas Sarwar.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. The Government has a mortgage support scheme. People are losing their homes right now and being forced to go homeless, and the Government is going to continue to look at how it's going to implement that mortgage support scheme. What is the point of having the scheme if it's not going to support people right now when they're in such difficulty? Because every family that loses their home risks joining the almost 30,000 families who are currently homeless in Scotland. Over 15,000 families across the country are staying in temporary accommodation right now, many of them in hostels, B&Bs and hotel rooms. And shockingly, that means 9,500 children will wake up on Christmas morning without a home to call their own. On average, families with children spend 347 days in temporary accommodation. That's almost a year. In some places, that is even higher. In Glasgow, it is 381 days. In Midlothian, it's 483 days. And here in Edinburgh, it is 611 days. That is 20 months homeless and living in temporary accommodation. So, Deputy First Minister, aren't you ashamed of that figure? And how have you allowed it to get this bad?
Deputy First Minister.
Let me come on to the issue of the important issue of temporary accommodation in a moment. We are supporting household incomes beyond actually many of the areas that we have devolved competence for. That £3 billion that I mentioned earlier on, of course, seeks to address things like the bedroom tax, which I'm not sure if Anas Sarwar's Westminster Party have decided that they will get rid of the bedroom tax. But these are pressures. These are pressures that come on the Scottish budget for things that we have to mitigate. And I'm going to be honest, we cannot mitigate everything because we don't have the resources to do so. But on the important issue of temporary accommodation, we are committed and are acting on the recommendations of the expert Temporary Accommodation Task and Finish Group, which of course was co-chaired with Shelter, and we're investing at least £60 million this year through the Affordable Housing Supply Programme to support a national acquisition plan. We're working with social landlords to deliver a new programme of stock management, and we're implementing targeted plans with local authorities facing the greatest pressure, backed by additional resources. And of course, a transition to rapid rehousing is the best way to reduce the use of temporary accommodation in the longer term, and we remain wholly committed to rapid rehousing, and future budgets, of course, will be set out next week, which will confirm that.
Anas Sarwar.
frankly, a shocking answer after 16 years of an SNP government, and there are people sleeping rough in our streets across the country. We have a housing emergency in Scotland, something that this SNP government fails to recognise. 30,000 homeless households in our country, and that's the answer we get. 15,000 families in temporary accommodation. 9,500 children without a home, some in hostels, B&Bs and hotels. 110,000 families on a housing waiting list. A child made homeless in Scotland every 45 seconds. We desperately need more homes, but this SNP government cut the housing budget by more than a quarter, and now new housing starts are down 24%. This government's incompetence has consequences. Now, they might not want to hear my word for it, but this is what Alison Watson, Director of Shelter Scotland, says about the effect of the SNP's choices. It means that an already devastating housing emergency will get worse and continue to devastate lives. So, Deputy First Minister, how many more families need to be made homeless before this SNP government takes responsibility for the crisis they have created?
Deputy First Minister.
So, we are taking action. Of course, that's why we have a housing plan of £3.5 billion of investment over the course of this Parliament to deliver 110,000 more homes by 2032. It's why, of course, we have in Scotland the strongest rights across the UK nations for people experiencing homeless. And it's why, of course, we're taking action that I laid out on tackling temporary accommodation. And we know, of course, that one of the pressures on temporary accommodation is the Home Office's fast-track asylum process, which is placing, of course, Glasgow City Council in particular under unprecedented pressure and risk pushing people into destitution. So we will continue to invest in housing and invest in tackling homelessness. What would be good to hear, though, from the Labour Party is whether Rachel Reeves is to be believed when she is saying that there's going to be no additional funding for public services and that we should lower our expectations that anything will change from the terrible resource settlement that we've had from this Tory government. So we'll wait and see, because I would welcome any commitment to housing investment made by Rachel Reeves or any other Labour spokesperson. I might wait a long time, though, Presiding Officer.